Let's return home to what is known as the Saudi sheep deal. Now, of course, the foreign minister's been under a lot of fire for this deal. It was $11.5 million in cash, livestock and agricultural equipment was given to this Saudi livestock reporter. The the Auditor General has released her report into the incident. She did not find corruption or bribery, but she was very critical of the process, critical of the transparency there. Can we start with what this was? And I'll quote you from the Auditor General. In my view, the settlement of a grievance was provided under the guise of a contract for services, end quote. Do you agree with that?
Well, you have to read the whole report.
I know, I'm just reading you that bit.
Yeah, no, I know, but like anything, you have to read the whole report.
But do you agree with that bit? Because this is important. It's what the deal was.
Yep.
She says it was a guise of a contract for services, but it was actually a settlement of a grievance.
Well, it depends what she means by that. What I would say is that, firstly, if you look at the opposition parties, they made a meal out of this thing and said it was a whole lot of things. It was not. So it wasn't corruption, it wasn't bribery, and it wasn't a facilitation payment. What is absolutely correct is that there was an issue, a very serious issue, and that issue had led to a breakdown in the relationship. And we had to find a way through that one way or the other. And so, in our view, without doing something there, I don't think we would have advanced the Gulf States FTA. I think, secondly, it's not the way New Zealand does business, is deliberately misleading people. And I think the previous Labor government did deliberately mislead the investor.
And your government mislead people by exactly that phrase, that it was a guise of a contract for services when actually it was setting out to settle this grievance?
No,
Why
I don't
did you
think
dress
so.
it up
Because
like that?
I don't think so, because it is. If you go and have a look at what this does, it establishes, amongst other things, an agribusiness hub in Saudi Arabia, and that is an opportunity for us to both promote agricultural products and services in Saudi Arabia.
But that wasn't why it was done, was it? It was done because you wanted to get the free trade deal with the Gulf States, right? That was the major thing, wasn't it?
Well, there were two or three issues, but yes, we wanted to advance the FTA, absolutely no question about that. Secondly, we could see a situation whereby developing the agribusiness hub, we could find a way through that would resolve that issue, but equally give some benefit to New Zealand. Now, is it novel and unusual? Yep, it's novel and unusual.
Okay, well, where is the benefit then? Because it's been in effect for 3.5 years, and there's still no trade deal.
No, but I tell you what, we're very close actually to the Gulf States FTA, and Saudi had been there's 7 parties to that. Of that, the Saudis were in the no camp. My understanding is the Saudis are now moving to the yes camp.
Because of this deal?
Well, because the relationship is back on a firmer footing.
But the deal's been there for 3.5 years and there hasn't been movement. I mean, if that was the big impediment, then wouldn't we have the deal now?
It's getting pretty close.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
it will happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen, yeah. That's the signs that we see out of Riyadh now.
And do you think that money spent was a big part of that?
Well, I think what happened was that the investor lost face. Had substantial investment in New Zealand with the intention of having a breeding stock here to live export those sheep for the Hajj. And he was welcomed by a Labor government to do that.
Yeah, but this is a democratic country which makes a sovereign decision on this, right? We're the country that stood up to America and said no nukes, despite all the implications of that, right? You've
Correct.
got a private businessman from Saudi Arabia who's a billionaire who got upset with a sovereign decision not to allow live sheep exports, and you have used $10 million of our money to buy them off.
The point is we haven't. Well, that's not true. You see, this is the whole problem. That's
Well,
exactly
isn't
what
it?
Labor and the Greens said and were proved to be incorrect. So the point is that's exactly what they said. And when the Auditor General report turned up and hopelessly shot down their arguments, they tried to change the goalposts.
Well, let's go back to the original question then.
But that is the point, though, isn't it?
Well, I'll frame it. No, you're not happy with buy-off, so let's use the technical...
Well, I'm just simply making the point that was what they said and they failed in their arguments.
Okay, well, we can both agree
according to the Auditor General.
Well, let's go with the Auditor General then.
Yep.
In my view, the settlement of a grievance was provided under the guise of a contract for services. Again, do you agree with that?
Well, there's a real contract for service there.
What do we get for it?
Well, we get a few things. Firstly, we get an agribusiness hub, which allows us to promote, believe it or not, there is a sector in the Middle East, and allows us to promote New Zealand. Secondly, there's no question that this guy, who was developing this breed of sheep in New Zealand, wanted to live export them to Saudi Arabia. That's what he was told. we have lived up to the policy agreements that he can't do that, but we've provided a way through where he can continue to breed those sheep and send them, one assumes, to the Hajj or whatever, but do it from Saudi Arabia. But in the same way, promote the New Zealand agricultural sector. So, look, you can sit down, I think everybody, and say, well, we do nothing, but bluntly, we inherited a problem from the previous Labour government. They made the mess. Yep, we tidied it up, but not in a way that they claimed. And
did you believe there was a legal risk?
We were never going to settle a legal dispute because that's not our driving argument.
The Cabinet was told in that paper of February 2013 that Murray McCully drew up that there was a legal risk of $20 to $30 million.
That's right. And
was there?
Well, there could have been, yes, but that was never the driving factor.
Why wasn't that assessed? I've read the report carefully.
Well,
there's no legal assessment of the risk.
Because we were never going to settle that one. If in the end, if he was going to take us to court, then he was going to take us to court on that. Our preference was to try and find a way through.
Why wouldn't the Cabinet paper have said that? Said, there's a legal risk of 20 or 30, but we're not going to pay out.
Because they didn't go into, if they were going to go into massive detail about that element, it would be to say they were going to settle that element, and that's what they weren't doing.
So do you think that this was a good use of public money?
I do, because if you sit there and say, in life sometimes you don't get a perfect, straightforward way to achieve your objective. And whether you like it or not, we inherited something from Labour, which was a mess. We could have said we're not going to do anything about it, but in the end we wouldn't have got access to a market which is going to be a very large market for New Zealand. We did do something that was novel, I agree with that, and something that was a bit unusual. But equally, we do get an opportunity to promote New Zealand. And I think on balance, you sit there and say, are we getting something out of it? Yes.
So you'd do it again?
Well, I don't think the situation is likely to come again because, one would hope that we wouldn't be inheriting, a situation where Labour deliberately misled an investor.
Continuing to blame Labour on this?
Well, they did. It's not a matter of me, making things up. Phil Goff actually went to Riyadh and misled this guy, in our view.
All right. And so you're happy with the minister continuing in that role?
Oh, for sure. He's doing an outstanding job. As I said to you, people go off to the Auditor General. They make lots and lots of statements. Go and have a look at all their statements. Bribery, corruption, facilitation payment. What did the Auditor General say? None of those.